Welcome to the first edition of the Fort Lee podcast. I am your congenial host, Jefferson Wolf, and today also with me is the Command Information Manager for Fort Lee, Pat Buffett.
Right.
Thank you for coming on,
All right,
at least to start. This is the first edition of this podcast. We are now in a people first army, so we're trying to reach people wherever we can, and also have the opportunity to tell people's stories firsthand by doing some interviews and other things. Pat's here with me today for the first segment of the podcast. We're going to divide these podcasts, at least to start with, up into three categories, three segments, if you want to talk about it that way. One to talk about news and things that's going on Fort Lee, which Pat's here for. We're going to also have a segment to interview someone where we're this week we're going to interview T. Anthony Bell, the head writer for the Public Affairs Office, who's been here a really long time and is going to share some great stories about famous people he's seen and the change in the industry, as well as some of the more important stories that he's covered while he's here. And then the third segment, we're going to talk to Megan Green from MWR to give you an idea what's coming up on Fort Lee for you to enjoy in the next couple of weeks or month or so. So once you have a chance to sit down and get familiar with the podcast, it's going to give you a chance to find out what's going on here at Fort Lee. You'll be able to listen to it at home. You'll be able to listen to it in the car. You'll be able to listen to it at lunch, whenever you have time. The hope is to get it up wherever finer podcasts are sold, and you can download it anywhere. And we're also going to be posting links to it on our social media. So we're glad you're with us today. And we're kind of replacing the Traveler newspaper in a sense. We've transitioned away from the Traveler, which Pat worked on for so long. And so, Pat, give us an idea of the end of the Traveler. Why did it end? And what are you looking at replacing it with?
Okay. Well, the Traveler served Fort Lee for 80 years.
That's a long run.
And it's a very long run. And so, of course, it was a very loved publication. But we were a victim of ad sales, like many newspapers. And so it wasn't sustainable because it, quite frankly, wasn't making money.
Well, lots of other military newspapers have collapsed in the last few years.
That is true. I think the last count, we were probably down to, I want to say, in the neighborhood of a dozen or so newspapers that are still thriving. And those are, that's certainly great news because they are such a great tradition. But unfortunately, we couldn't make it work here. So we shut down our newspaper at the end of January. The alternative to that, of course, was that we had to look for other means to try to, fulfill that information void that was left when the newspaper was gone. So as a result, here we are. We're looking at different mediums like this podcast. We look at, certainly we have an online presence now, army.mil/Lee. That is where our main news front now. We have our social media pages, which have become quite active.
Yeah, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. That's correct. And so those are becoming really our bread and butter, as it were, to get information out to the community.
Now, one example of the change is over the last few days, we've been publishing on Facebook and the other sites high school graduation shout-outs for the Fort Lee community high school graduates, people that have, young men and women that have graduated from the local high schools. Tell me a little bit about what made you decide to use that. That used to be a section in the paper, wasn't it?
That's correct. We used to do this annually as a special insert into our newspaper, and we didn't want to discontinue it because so often the groups that are overlooked are the younger population of the fort, because of course they go to school every day and kind of do their stuff in the background, but they are certainly an important part of our community. We didn't want them to feel left out, and this year has been particularly tough, say a little over a year because of the COVID. Last year they didn't have commencement, so this has been really a good thing that people have responded well to.
What's the difference in compiling something like that and putting it on social media as opposed to putting it in a section in the newspaper?
I think it's been a little more creative, I want to say. The newspaper was nice because it was a takeaway, as something you could put into a scrapbook, or you could send to grandma, those sorts of things. Here, the popularity of social media means that, it can be shared and it can go out a lot quicker, which was what made us decide that another advantage would be that instead of just merging all of the graduates together, is to present them individually, give them their 15 minutes of time in the spotlight.
Right.
And then and allowing friends and family and other members of the command to say, hey, congratulations, good job.
Yeah, to include the command leadership
That's true.
chimed in on some of those posts too.
That is true.
That's good. So it gives them a way to be recognized, maybe that the newspaper didn't. So a little bit now, talk to us a little bit about the importance of command information and how it shows us the lifestyle of what goes on here, and why are we doing this in the first place?
Right. I think it's really more important than maybe a lot of people realize, because a comment that we would hear often, especially for the newspaper, is like, oh, I don't read that thing. What's in there for me? Well, if you really think about it, whether it's a newspaper or it's a website or it's a social media site, is that we're doing our best to keep you informed. And I'll use COVID as an example, because we all just went through this, is that had we simply not said anything about mask wearing or social distancing and shared that news, you would feel pretty misinformed. Take that down to a day-to-day level, and we want to ensure that community members know. Like, we're in the middle, hurricane season just began.
That's just where I was going to go. It's from June 1 to November 30th, and last year set a new record for hurricanes making landfall in the U.S., so we have to be ready for this stuff.
That's correct. Yeah, we exceeded the National Oceanic Administration's
those guys.
Those guys. We exceeded their totals by, almost doubled what they had. We went all the way through the named alphabet, and for the first time, only the second time in history, we went into the Greek alphabet in order to continue.
Just for the record, some of this is available on our story that we did at army.mil/Lee.
That is correct. So that's important to be informed about, because an hour before a storm is not the time to get prepared. You need to prepare now.
Right. And another story that popped up for a different population of folks on base lately is the program for those folks that are separating from the service. And there's another group of people that we serve on here are veterans, retirees like you and me, who also are part of the community. But there's a program for those who are getting ready to separate that allows them to get STEM instructor training, and that's science, technology, engineering, math training. They can get classroom experience while certifying in graphic design and computer programming. Right. That story is the sort of thing that somebody who is separating might want to know about.
That is correct.
And we need to reach out to those people too.
Yeah, because it's we have to think about the people, about the whole soldier, not just those in addition to those students who are coming here. We have to think about those old veterans like us who are deciding to hit the trail.
Right.
Unfortunately, we'd all love to go home and go fishing.
Right.
But, you got to get that next career started.
And some people aren't retiring. Some people are just separating, and they're looking for jobs and a second career. That's the transition assistant. Easy for me to say. Yeah. That's the Transition Assistance Program in charge of that, 804-734-4055 if you're interested. And you can find them on our website as well, the Transition Assistance Program. And the last story I would bring up is another example of a command information thing for those people who are on active duty and who are served by the post. Things going on at the hospital at Kenner. One of the things they have going on is 2 new dietitians are there, and those folks are able to help create an eating plan and manage medical conditions or achieve a healthier lifestyle for folks. And how do we work with some of these other organizations on base to get the stories up on army.mil/Lee?
We work fairly closely together with CASCOM, with our DCMA folks, commissary agencies here, and has a public affairs team. So we just go to them and say, what is your latest news? And we collaborate and see how we can help each other out with getting the information out. And what we do is an advantage, or the advantage is we are able to use our website is to kind of consolidate all that stuff and give the audience one place to go to get their news.
Right, so that's great. That's army.mil.ly is where you find that stuff.
Army.mil/Lee. Mm-hmm.
And we're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I think we're all Army Fort Lee on those, aren't we?
That is correct.
Okay, so we're all Army Fort Lee on all those. If you found this link by using one of those, obviously you already know that, but if you want to look for the other ones, we're out there. I guess that's about all we have for this segment. Pat, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. It's great to hear you talk about command information and get an idea of what's going on, and also be able to promo the website, army.mil/Lee, which is kind of taking the place of the Traveler. So thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you.
Very good. Okay, we're back with the second segment of the Fort Lee podcast. This is the inaugural edition. And now I'm going to be joined by T. Anthony Bell, a name many people around Fort Lee have been familiar with for many years. T. Bell, as we call him here in the office, is the longtime senior writer here at Fort Lee in the Public Affairs Office. You've been here since when?
2005, November 27th.
Very good. That's quite a while. And welcome to the podcast, by the way. Thank you for helping us inaugurate the first one. Tell us a little bit about your job.
Okay. Well, again, I am a writer for the Command Information section of the Public Affairs Office. Of course, you guys know that there's three functions of a Public Affairs Office. That is media relations, community relations, and command information. I work in the Command Information section, where I support the commander's agenda or his mission, and that means writing stories that support the activities here. That could be anything from training to operations, you name it.
Now, you've been here since 2005, but before that you had a career in uniform with Public Affairs as well. Tell us a little about that.
Well, I came in the Army in 1979. I became a journalist in 1985 when the schoolhouse was still at Fort Benjamin Harrison, Indiana. I was an instructor there and later moved on to Fort Meade, Maryland, where the schoolhouse moved. And I ended my career at Fort Bragg, North Carolina.
What was, as you were a public affairs soldier, how does that differ from being a civilian?
There's not much of a difference because when I was in uniform, I spent time on numerous newspapers. So my job today is really just an extension of that.
So it was a good training ground or good prep ground to come here.
Oh, it was an excellent training.
Came off active duty into something you already knew.
Yes, but I didn't. Let me just point out that when I retired in 2001, I didn't go into public affairs. I worked at TSA. Oh,
so you had a little break in there.
I needed a break. But then I missed public affairs, and then I came back after 3 years.
Well, it's I'm sure Fort Lee has benefited from having you here for all these times. Now, speaking of all this time you spent here at Fort Lee, what are some of the biggest events that happened during your time as a journalist here at Fort Lee?
I would say the biggest event, one-day event, was President Obama's visit. I think that was 2016. It took everybody here to prepare for that visit.
What did you do while he was here?
I actually covered the visit. So he had a sort of how would you describe it? It was like a CNN town hall.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So CNN was here.
Where did that take place?
That took place at Clark Fitness Center.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So they had a studio set up with one of the anchors from CNN, and they interviewed the president, and he answered questions there.
How about that?
So that was a huge event for me.
Right, sure. And you took photos and did a story about it?
I took photographs. I didn't get to interview the president, but I got close to him.
Yeah.
And
that's
got
cool.
plenty of pictures as well.
Wow, that's cool. And then you said there was another one you wanted to mention as well.
The other one was BRAC.
Right.
And that is the Base Realignment and Closure. And it's a congressional mandate to either reorganize or realign an installation. And that, for Fort Lee, that meant consolidating 2 or 3 schools right here
Right.
at Fort Lee. So that was the transportation school, the ordnance school, and some other activities moved here as well. Right. So there was close to about $1 billion worth of construction that went on because of BRAC. Also, there were more than 50 new buildings that were built here.
That's a lot. I didn't realize it was 50.
It was a huge transformation for the installation because Fort Lee was simply before that a sleepy AIT post.
Right.
And after that, it became a bustling sort of a Army installation.
Now, how did you cover that over the course of time? I mean, what were the things you keyed in on to relay that information to the population?
Well, I think the first thing that we were tasked to do was simply to explain to our readership what was going on, what did BRAC mean, and how it was going to change Fort Lee. That was the main point of my job.
We just came through a year, and we're still finishing up, I guess, hopefully finishing up, a year of COVID response and dealing with COVID. How would you talk about the way you were able to do stories about COVID, and what was the goal to convey to people during this whole pandemic?
Again, with any situation like COVID, or whether it be COVID or anything else, the main objective is simply to convey to the readership what's going on. How is the command going to handle the pandemic? What do readers need to do to protect themselves? How the installation will continue to operate under those circumstances. So my job encompasses all that. Now,
in addition to having some large events while you were here, obviously, since 2005, there's been plenty of stuff to keep you busy. You've also had the opportunity to meet and interview a lot of famous people who came through, toured through Fort Lee for one reason or another. So tell me about some of the famous people you were able to meet.
So I got to start with President Obama.
Right.
Like I said, I didn't get to interview him, but simply just being there and being a part of the visit was pretty much the highlight of my career as a civilian and as a soldier. Being a part of the Best Warrior competition was an 11-year event. It was held here at Fort Lee for 11 straight years, and during that competition, we had many people come through to either check on the warriors, talk to them, sort of promote what they were doing.
That was when the big Army one was here, right? Because we still do a smaller one, but
right.
that was the big.
This was the Department of the Army Best Warrior competition.
Right.
And so we had the Secretary of Army, McHugh. He came here. Of course, the Sergeant Major of the Army was always here because he had to check on how things were going before the competition started.
You had a chance at one of the culinary competitions to meet a once and future chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. So tell us a little bit about your opportunity to meet General Martin Dempsey.
All right. So first of all, I want to say that the culinary competition is a great event because it sort of promotes a career field in the Army that does not get a whole lot of recognition. People don't care anything about food service until they get hungry. And that's especially true when you're out in the field, right? Yeah. So to see those troops out there at the competition being proud of who they are as culinarians and being food service, it was always a thrill for me. So, but anyway, General Martin Dempsey at the time, he came here when he was the commander of TRADOC. And one of his staff members was in the competition. So he came down to visit, to sort of take a look at him and also look at the competition itself. And I remember him doing a lot of food tasting. Mm-hmm. And so many of the dignitaries who came to the competition did a lot of food tasting.
Well, that's kind of the goal, right? It's the culinary. How good is it?
How good is it? But, I would think that because he's a general officer, he's used to that type of food.
Yeah.
But he was still tasting a lot of that food.
Yeah.
But no, it was a great event to see him
Right.
come down, because what you want general officers to come to that competition, because the competition really needed their support.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. While you were covering the Best Warrior competitions, you got an opportunity to meet a Medal of Honor recipient. So tell us a little bit about that.
All right, so the Best Warrior competition was here at Fort Lee for at least 11 consecutive years. And every year you would have these soldiers from all over the Army, from all over the world, actually coming here to train for I think it started off, it was a week long. And the competition was always fun because the events were different almost every year. And I remember one of the highlights of the competition was actually me meeting a Medal of Honor, somebody named Command Sergeant Major Benny Atkins. He had been awarded the Medal of Honor recently, and I remember talking to him and watching him, and he was somebody who seemed very humble to me.
And the act for which he was received the award, what took place during the Vietnam War, right?
It was I believe it was the Vietnam War, and he had helped to train some either Vietnamese, in a battle, and of course, it was very noteworthy.
Right.
But I just remember him being so humble and listening and not preaching to soldiers, not judging soldiers at all, but listening to these young soldiers and and being open to the new Army. So that's what I really remember about Command Sergeant Major Atkins.
How do you think the soldiers responded to somebody like that? Do you think that they were listening and learning?
They loved this guy. They
That's
loved
good.
him, and I heard them say it. See, this guy is like, for many of them, it was the highlight of their military career, because as you know, you just don't meet many folks who've earned the Medal of Honor every day. Many of them, are awarded posthumously.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
for them to meet him was a highlight.
Well, that's cool. So with all the stuff we're talking about kind of in the past, you're still here. You're still writing. You're still very busily engaged. So tell us a little bit about the changes in the business. I know that in the first segment, Pat Buffett and I talked a little bit about how the Traveler newspaper went away and we're kind of transitioning to more social media stuff. Can you tell us a little bit about how that affects you or how you intend to use that in your job?
Well, first of all, let's just say that transitions are tough. I was in the Army when we went from darkroom chemicals to computer, processing, and that was tough for me. When the newspaper went away earlier this year, that's been tough as well. I'm still transitioning, so it's taken a little bit of getting used to, but the Army moves on and technology has made things better. So I'm trying hard to embrace social media and everything that's associated with being online, but that's the way things are.
Nothing's quite the same as picking up a newspaper and seeing your name there.
Yeah, there's nothing like it, and I cut my teeth in that part of public affairs, so it's hard to let go.
Right. Well, that's all I have for this segment. I think we're about the end of our time anyway, so thank you for coming on. We appreciate it, for being part of this first Fort Lee podcast, and hopefully we'll be talking to you again soon.
Thank you.
Welcome back to segment 3 of our podcast. I am now joined by Marketing Manager Megan Green of Family, Morale, Welfare, and Recreation. I think I got that right. And we're going to talk a little bit about what's coming up for the MWR folks, what's coming up on base, what some of the events are in the next month or so. But first of all, I think the biggest thing that you guys want to talk about is adding some employees, because FMWR is hiring, right?
Absolutely, we're hiring. So we welcome everyone to come and be part of the Family and MWR team. We have a ton of positions open. They vary anywhere from childcare to laborers at our golf course. And then finally, a really important one we'll mention, because everyone wants to get that pool opened, is we are looking for lifeguards and a manager.
Pool, that's very important.
So very easy to go and apply. You visit usajobs.gov. You search keyword NAF, that's N-A-F, and you get a full listing of all of our opportunities.
Right, and that's NAF on Fort Lee. And NAF stands for
Non-appropriated funds.
Yeah, it's an acronym, and the reason is you look for the individual jobs, they don't pop up.
Exactly.
But for whatever reason, NAF does.
It does, because we have such a wide variety of jobs, but that means a wide variety of opportunities for everyone too.
Right. Okay, great. Well, I guess the first thing on the list here is the Independence Day celebration. That's something everybody's interested in. It's going to be a little different this year than it's been in the past, though.
Yep, kind of just like with everything else we've had in the past year and a half, it's going to look a little different, but we're super excited to be able to kind of have this be our kickoff of one of the larger events returning after COVID.
So tell me a little bit about what's going on. It's not on July 4th this year.
No, it's going to be on July 2nd, but same time as usual, 5 p.m.
So instead of being 4th at the fort, it's kind of like 2nd at the fort.
Yeah, exactly. We changed it to the Independence Day celebration.
Right. So it's also open to a different crowd of people.
It is. So usually we would have the whole community attending, including outside the gates, people not affiliated with Fort Lee. We did need to keep the size a little bit more controlled this year, so it is open to DOD ID card holders only.
Right. So anybody who has a DOD ID card and can get on base can attend, but the general public is unfortunately not invited this year.
Absolutely. Yep. So it'll be fun. We'll have food, fun, and of course the fireworks show, which will begin at about 9:30.
Right. And should it happen to rain, keep an eye on your Facebook page to see what's going to happen, but you have a backup date.
Yeah, so we'll go ahead and we'll be posting all day from our Facebook page, which is Fort Lee FMWR. We do have a rain date of July 3rd, but that would just be for the fireworks.
Right.
It wouldn't have the food.
Okay, got it. Well, so to go over it real quick, July 2nd, 5 p.m., everything kicks off, fireworks at 9:30, and hopefully a good time will be had by all to go
Yes,
with
you
that.
got it. And so
Please
stay
thank
tuned to our Facebook page, and we'll post more information.
Right on, great. And so tell me about Nine and Wine.
Well, this is a brand new event that we just started doing a couple months ago. It is on the 2nd and 4th Monday of the month. It's a glass of wine, always pairs well with a round of golf. So we
Okay.
invite all the ladies out. All skill levels are welcomed. In fact, last month we had about 6 or 7 ladies that had never picked up a golf club before.
Oh, wow. How'd they do?
They had a good time.
Really? That's good. That's all that counts.
Exactly. So it's $20 a person, and it's a great deal. It includes your wine, some finger sandwiches, your cart, and green fee.
And you obviously 9 and Wine, you're playing 9 holes.
If you get to that.
Right, okay, got it. And the golf course has 27, so how do you pick which 9?
Whatever the golf course tells us, and quite
okay.
honestly, many of us don't really know too much of the difference.
Very good. That sounds cool. So what do you have to do to reserve a spot?
Just swing by the golf course and pay some registration, the $20 fee, no later than 2 days before the event.
And probably like everything else we're talking about, more information is also available on the Facebook page.
Absolutely, and the Facebook page and also our website, lee.armymwr.com.
Very good. And now this is a recurring thing, which is actually opening up for more people now, right? Lunch at the Lee Club.
Yeah, so we are so excited that we got to bring this back. It's open Tuesday to Friday, 11:30 to 1. It's daily, and it's made with the freshest ingredients. So everyone that goes gives rave reviews. Some of the favorites include yakisoba and the beef bulgogi is everyone's raving favorite.
You know, oddly enough, I was looking at the menu just the other day, and a couple things. Those did jump out. You also have a barbecue sandwich and a fish sandwich and a few other things. So there's quite a variety of things to eat there, and you get to sit in the luxury of the Lee Club.
Absolutely. So we're excited to open the doors and bring everyone back inside to dine with us. And be sure to let the waitstaff know what you like, because we're really looking at making this an innovative menu that can change and update.
Oh, that's cool. And so during COVID, you had slowed down what was allowed to go in there because of the capacity limits, right?
Yes.
And so now you're back up to full force.
Yeah, we're able to, the ballroom's quite big, so people are
Right.
still able to be distanced and enjoy meals there.
Well, that's good. Okay, so another thing that's coming up, and this is more aimed at a younger crowd, is the summer reading program.
It is, and I'll actually correct you on that. So we actually welcome all levels to our
Really?
summer reading program, from the youngest all the way through adults.
So I could join the summer reading program.
You can join the summer reading program.
Would I get a
Everyone can.
T-shirt?
Not a T-shirt, but I'm sure they'll find some prize for you.
Okay, very good. So the summer reading program's open to everybody.
Yep.
Please continue.
So we kicked it off this past week. We had 65 in attendance at one of our youth events. And just like I said, we have events for all ages. So we'll do reading, crafts, and exercises scheduled throughout the summer for the young children. And then teens will have makerspace events throughout the summer. Again, open to all ages. Just stop by the library to register. And the library is located inside Army Logistics University on the second floor.
Okay. Is there a deadline for registration for the program? Because a lot of kids are just, today, like my kids, just finished their school year. So as the kids are getting out, is there a deadline where they have to
Yeah, there's not
register?
necessarily a deadline. Just stop in. We
Okay.
just don't want you to miss out on all the events.
Okay, very good. And the next event we wanted to discuss is Cork and Canvas.
Yeah, so Cork and Canvas is one of the many art classes. We have two fantastic ladies at the frame shop that are very, very talented artists that are willing to help you kind of take your artistry to the next level. It doesn't matter if you're a beginner or advanced, they can help you. So Cork and Canvas is enjoy a glass of wine. It is the last Friday of the month, and you can create a work of art with their trained artists. There is a minimum number of attendees, so we need to make sure that we meet that minimum to have the
Right.
event.
Okay, so you have to register in advance. And how do you register for that?
Just swing by the frame shop, and they're able to help
Okay,
you out.
can you call? They're listed on the website as well,
They're
right?
listed on the website, and honestly, one of the easiest places to get phone numbers these days is the
Yeah.
Digital Garrison app.
Ah, good
Yes,
catch, good catch.
Always trying to plug that one.
Right. So Digital Garrison, you can download it from any of your app stores, no matter what phone you use, and it gives you information about what's going on post, gives you maps, and gives you access to sales and things that are going on at AFES PX as well.
Absolutely, and it also will include all the events we've talked about today are all listed on the
Okay,
Digital Garrison
so that's
app.
a good one. Just one question for Cork and Canvas. Where is the frame shop located?
So the frame shop is located in the area of the Lee Club next to the old bowling center. Now, some of the arts and crafts classes they do there, but some of them they do near the Lee Playhouse. So just call and get all the details for all
Okay.
their classes.
Well, that sounds good. Cork and Canvas. And we talked one more time. We talked about hiring. Tell us a little bit about what you're looking for as far as hiring. What kind of folks are you looking for, and what do they need to do if they're interested?
You know, we think we have such a fantastic team, so we're really looking for anyone that wants to come, make a difference with the military, maybe take care of military children, work at our bowling center or golf course. Really, the opportunities right now are a little unlimited, so we definitely want to get as many people in. If, usajobs.gov is a system that we hope is user-friendly, but if it isn't, just pop on our Facebook page, send us a message, and we'll help you walk through it.
Okay, that's good. And then, there's one more thing I wanted to talk about that I almost missed on the list here was Leisure Travel Office and opportunities people can have if they go there to look for local area attractions and maybe even beyond.
Yeah, so the Leisure Travel Office is by far our most popular office, especially this time of year. We will note that we added Saturday hours for everyone's convenience. So during the summer, they're open from 9 to 12:30 on Saturdays. They sell tickets to Busch Gardens, local area attractions, Williamsburg, D.C., you name it.
Okay.
They can help you out. And their mission is to help save you money. So they're not going to be selling you a ticket you could get cheaper somewhere else.
Right.
They're really there to help you save.
Oh, that's good. Now, that office is also by the old bowling alley, right?
It is. It's in the Bloom Building, Building
Right.
9024.
Right. Okay. And then, that seems to be about everything we wanted to talk about today. You can always find details about what's going on at MWR at lee.armymwr.com. That's the website. We talked about the Digital Garrison app, and we also talked about the social media sites. They're on Facebook. Are you guys on any other social media
We're
sites?
also on Instagram.
Okay, Facebook and Instagram. Take a look for Fort Lee Army MWR. And so thank you very much for joining us. That was Megan Green, the marketing manager for FMWR here on Fort Lee. That wraps up this edition of the Fort Lee podcast. Thanks very much to Pat Buffett, T. Anthony Bell, Megan Green, all for appearing as guests on our show. Spinning the dials and making us all sound good was Brian Stevens. And we'd like to invite you to give us any feedback. Feel free to hit us up on any of our social media properties that we talked about as we were going through. On Twitter, if you use the hashtag Fort Lee Podcast, all one word, we'll keep an eye out for that. And incorporate whatever you have as suggestions that we can into our future episodes of the podcast. Once again, for everybody involved here, thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Fort Lee Podcast.